Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave original. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is that time of week we have a guest join us. Check him out at Channel 6, the best college football writer in America, Spencer Hall. What's going on, sir?
I'm geeked. I am now officially in the mode of I'm watching camp tape, sincerely and without an ounce of irony, watching reps and going, "Ooh, he threw 3 TDs against his teammates yesterday. It's going to be an amazing year." Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, no, I see you getting to your playing weight, and when I talk about you getting into your playing weight, I'm not talking about your body. I'm talking about the facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
Got a haircut. You know what I'm saying?
Back in from the woods. Yeah, you got to come back to civilization for 3 or 4 months. I got to trim. I may be getting another one in the next 2 months. I'm on top of things.
Yeah, and we love the idea of when you get these haircuts, given that you live in Atlanta, it's always fun to see your new room, your new world of compliments that pops up with the cut and fades away directly proportional to new growth.
That's right. You get this, everyone's like, "Oh man, did you lose weight?" And you're like, "In my head, yeah, lost about 10 pounds of hair."
I used to be able to do that.
You still can. I don't want you to do that. If you wanted to grow out a beautiful head of hair right now, you could, because you did it. You did it in the pandemic. I still think it's there.
I loved the pandemic was the first time that our hairlines didn't matter. Right, we didn't have time to be worried about that. I was stopping the spread, and that thereby allowed me to have a thick, lush, luxurious head of hair. And I will tell you, in moments of stress, that is when I miss it. I don't like now. If I'm playing with my hair, I go straight to the scalp. Now, don't get me wrong. That can also be very soothing, but the difference is for it to soothe, you got to get all the way in there. You know what I'm saying?
And you got to keep it there. That's the thing. I had a shaved head for a while back in college when I was in sort of a Stone Cold Steve Austin goes to a rave mode. And I had it slick, lived in Florida. When you put the head to the pillow at night, the cool on the skin, that's just an immaculate feeling.
I would also say I'm glad that you pulled out Stone Cold Steve Austin as opposed to what it otherwise means when a young white male decides he doesn't want any hair on his head.
You got to be careful with that. You got to be real careful with that.
Like if you got a bunch of tattoos, don't.
No, if you got one tattoo, it's kind of a push, right? You gotta be walking out there and be friendly. That's the thing. You can't walk out there mean with the shaved head. You got to walk out with the shaved head and be nice. Very nice.
Yes, great jokes. Jokes will go a long way. College football season is here. We get started this weekend. From what I have been able to glean from kind of the macro level coverage going into the season, there is a heavy Arch Manning investment that is not supported by fact, track record, or history of his own.
No.
This hasn't happened. And by the way, the guy that he did not beat out at Texas, Quinn Ewers, had his first preseason game, and I believe it was 4 for 16.
It might be worse. I think it was 5 for 18. Yeah. It was
bad news.
Yeah, it was bad news. It looked like somebody playing. Okay, listen. It looked like somebody playing against pros for the first time.
But he wasn't playing against pros. He was playing against the Orkin Man, the Amazon Task Force. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there was a guy in a linebacker with a blue vest, right? He made the tackle and then he took a picture of it, right? Delivered. No, I mean, yeah, he's playing it, but those guys are still incredibly good, and they're better than what you're going to see in college. I say this, by the way, as a manner of excusing Arch, because the only time I've seen Arch play in person, was versus Georgia. And as our mutual George Foster said, "Whoo, they threw that boy in the hot grease." Yeah, immediately. They threw him in the grease immediately, and it was popping, and he was frankly unready. Okay. And in a very unfair situation. Georgia was in a lather. It was the second quarter. They were already getting all of the cheeks kicked, just getting smoked, right? Sometimes the defense just does that. They could just sit back and cover one, and they're like, "We're murdering you. We're murdering you." They were as motivated and as aware of the game plan as they were at any time in the season. It's the best 2 or 3 quarters Georgia played all year. And he wasn't ready. he shouldn't have been ready. Like by any definition of the word ready and any reasonable expectation, that's probably what you should have seen. He looked stunned. He looked like things were moving too fast. He looked like Quinn Ewers yesterday, which is what happens when somebody jumps up a level in competition. I don't think we're going to necessarily be totally ready for what you see because or aware of what he's truly capable of, because have you looked at the first month of their season? They do get off to a big start against Ohio State. Mind you, that is Ohio State with a new defensive coordinator replacing a lot of people. However, that's still going to be on the road. It's still going to be very intimidating, and it's still going to be at a speed that he's not entirely familiar with. But the next 3 weeks of the schedule is where we might start lying to ourselves about him being maybe better. He'll come out of Ohio State and he might look terrible. He really might. I don't think he will, because if you know Steve Sarkisian, he's going to give his quarterback a lot of easy reads. We're going to see a lot of like throws to the flat. We're going to see a lot of swing passes. We're going to see a lot of, easy boots and play action to get him comfortable and get him some completions. Those next 3 weeks, though, that's where we really might start lying to ourselves, because they play San Jose State, they play Sam Houston, and they play UTEP. Those three schools are going to balloon his stats. It's very good for him, by the way. That's exactly what I would want. Like if you were a quarterback and you were going for the first part of the season, what would you want? Hey, I want to throw 15 times against Ohio State and hand the ball off a lot. Great idea. Great idea. And then for the next 3 weeks, I want cupcakes. I want to just sort of build my confidence. I want to stack stats. I want to look maybe better than I'm going to look later in the season, because I'm going to need that. It's a longer season than it's ever been before. I'm going to need that confidence. And I'm going to need to, frankly, take some second halves off. If I can avoid those hits, if I can avoid, the trauma of the game itself and save it for later, I will. So it's intriguing to me. I don't think you're actually going to get a decent read on him until, the second month, third month of the season.
So our kind of new reality television model of following sports, which is to say, for whatever reason, we find familiar people or familiar names, and then they become our obsessions. This is part of the Shedeur Sanders situation, right? It is the way we feel about his father carrying down to him, and that fame, that fame conferring upon him. Part of what is fascinating about Arch Manning, obviously, is he's not even a son; he's a nephew. Right? Like He is a nephew. He is Cooper's son. Cooper, who, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he still does, but he used to have a podcast called Soup with Coop, which is, by the way, your reinforcement of how much different it is when it's a white man named Coop and a black man named Coop. It means if we call you Coop because it's your first name, it's something very different than if we call you Coop and it's your last name, right? What I find interesting about Arch Manning in the historical sense is, unlike his brothers, he is actually similar to his father. I mean, his grandfather, rather, right? I always felt like Archie Manning had to be terribly ashamed of how slow his boys were. It has to be very similar to when, like, black people raise their kids against white people and then look up and they can't dance. Right? Like, oh man, I knew a woman once who told me that situation. She told me that her daddy looked at her dancing with the white people and immediately put them in track because he figured that would be the next step to get him back to where, like, he realized he had failed, man. He tried to give him a better life, and in some ways he felt like he gave him a worse one. But there are reasons to have questions about Arch. There's been a longstanding belief that much of the hype is just centered around his last name. I've seen the talent with him moving. Like I say, that's where he reminds you of his father. He could really go. I've seen no reason to believe in Arch the passer as of yet, but we're talking about him like we're almost talking about him like you talked about Andrew. Not like Andrew Luck going into year 3, because that was its own different level of hype. But it's still, I feel like it's not a what will Arch be, which is what I think it should be about, a question rather than anything declarative.
I think what you'll see, and this is, again, people pare down playbooks, then they pare down expectations as we go. If the dude can run, this is college football. He's going to run. That's it, right? Like, oh, hey, I don't know. Maybe we need to bring him along with this. But shut up. No, this is stupid. This is a very simple game at its root. If he is primarily a runner, then Steve Sarkisian and that staff will use him as a runner. And that is the thing. Now, maybe some of those things are going to be RPOs. Maybe some of those things are going to be a lot of sort of simplified run pass reads that he's going to be able to do. And that's fine. That's fine. Leave that to the NFL scouts to worry about. What Texas is charged with is winning. And if that's what he is, if he is a runner first, then that's what he's gonna be. This is my Bob Cousy take. When somebody's like, "Man, streets weren't ready for Bob Cousy. You don't know what he was putting down." Okay, my thing is this: Archie Manning, you have no idea what an athlete Archie Manning was prior to the Superdome eating his knees. That's really what I want to get to.
Well, the Superdome and all the opponents for the Saints could do nothing to help.
No, they could do absolutely nothing. They destroyed that man's legs. But one of my great white whales, if I can find it, is a full copy of the game tape for that 69 Ole Miss Alabama game, because that is the one where he goes full Johnny Manziel. And we don't have a full copy of the game tape for that game. I think he throws for over 300. He runs for over 100. He is a monster in that game. A Manning, I said that out loud, a member of the Manning family running all over everyone's ass and looking like greased lightning out there.
Yo, that's what I keep telling people, man. He had to be a little bit ashamed while also being like, boys, the path to safety is in the pocket.
Yeah, he had to do that because that's why he limps now. I think Arch needs to go ahead and at one point play outside of the playbook. I think that's it. And I think they know that too, because if you want to unleash all of that talent in a form that everyone can work with and understand, it won't necessarily be playing within the play, within the X's and O's. He's going to have to he's going to have to improv. He's going to have to do some things that are probably going to make everyone real nervous. It makes coaches nervous when they don't know what's going to happen on a play, but he's not totally ready to just operate yet, right? And this is not controversial. Like, none of this should be controversial, okay? This is going to be a first-year full-time starter, not ready to operate what can be a kind of complex offense. And I think that's, again, something that the staff knows and that down the road you'll see. I mean, I'm excited because I like these kind of quarterbacks. I do feel bad for him because when I went to the game in Austin last year, I saw nothing but Arch Manning jerseys. He was not the starter, Bo. It was all Quinn Ewers was the starter and had been the starter and had put in a lot of hours and time and played a lot of games for the Longhorns, and it was all Manning jerseys. There's no way that in some way he can't disappoint if they don't, Heisman national title. There will be people who will be disappointed.
Well, first of all, let's not forget, Quinn Ewers came into college as a BFD himself, right?
Huge.
And to be fair to Quinn transferred in after, I believe he made some bad decisions. But he transferred to Texas where he was probably going to go anyway, but he jumped out to get some short money on some NIL and then couldn't beat out CJ Stroud. At that point, I think you stay at Ohio State because you're going to be throwing to something incredible. Yeah. But instead he came back to Texas, and look, it worked out okay. But Quinn's got to be the best quarterback Texas has since Colton left, right?
I think so. And
everybody's talking about Arch. And it has little to nothing to do with Arch actually playing football. It is the damnedest thing. Never seen anything quite like it. But good thing for Arch, they're loaded. They're loaded in a way where it's not like when Texas has been loaded in the past and you still think somebody's going to push them around, right? They had literally 4 seasons around Mac where they did not get pushed around. And in those 4 seasons, they lost a combined 2 games or 3 games. Like that's how that goes, right? This is a Sarkisian, like they did what so many programs around the country did, especially in the SEC. Get your Saban guy and hope that you can implement a Saban-like system and hope for the best. It has not worked out well for everybody. It's working out pretty well for these guys so far.
If you look at their depth chart, and most depth charts, I use the same thing everyone else uses. I use ourlads.com. If you go there, you can look at the depth charts, and they're pretty frequently updated. They're pretty up to date. And if you look at any contemporary team's chart, anyone right now in 2025, you're going to see a lot of orange. Orange is the color that they indicate to that you have a transfer coming in for 2025. Most rosters look like half orange, half. Some more so. Some like 2/3 orange. Ironically, the burnt orange of Texas, two transfers. This is a homegrown, home-picked team that has a lot of experience coming back, a lot of native talent, a lot of talent that the staff handpicked, recruited, and brought in with great intent. Wisner at running back alone is a concern. Like they are going to be heinous to face this year. So there is an element of don't screw this up, right? Well, one more thing on Quinn Ewers, by the way, we don't talk about injuries in college enough. That guy had some injuries that just changed the way he threw. I swear the deep ball that he threw in year 1 versus the deep ball that he threw in year 4, those are two different things. I think he lost something in the arm through injury, and I'm not exactly sure where along the line. I don't have his his injury chart with the little body outlined with all of the little X's and red marks on it, but I swear injuries changed his potential at the college level and then consequently at the pro level. The dude you see now is not the dude I think you would have seen had a couple of injuries and some luck gone one way or the other.
All right. Now, the Texas transfer thing you mentioned is interesting because the thing I tell people that's a little bit tricky about that job is that, and look, things have changed now, the money and the way the money works, where the geography is still going to be a dominant factor in where guys go to school, but obviously it's not as clear and clean as it used to be, right? People are going to throw some bags around. People are going to make some different decisions. Okay, cool. But players typically go close to where they are from for a number of reasons. The thing that is underrated about Texas is that, and A&M also, but it's only close to Texas.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have to subsist on that program on local talent. And nobody else, by the way, can subsist only on local talent. But even if you're in Georgia is maybe another program that can, but by and large, you look at their roster and they're like, no, we don't, we get the best players from Georgia, but we got to go everywhere else to get them.
Yeah.
But they're close to Charlotte, right? They're close to Alabama. They're close to North Florida. They're close to a whole bunch of places. Austin is close to Houston, Dallas, and like a circle that kind of goes around there. That is what they're close to. If they're not getting it done with local players, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. And if you doubt the Texas thing is real, that it's not, that Texas isn't close to anything but Texas, go look at what they've had to do in Lubbock to get talent there. Go look at the money that they've had to drop.
And that's close to less, because that ain't even close to Houston and Dallas.
That's close to the moon. That's it. It's the FBS program that is furthest away from all the other FBS programs. Like if you triangulate it, the most remote one is not Wyoming. It is not it's not like your Boise's. It's Lubbock. Lubbock is the one. And if you go and look, they've had to drop a tremendous amount of money just to get talent there, right? There, but the upside of that is you're right. If you're in Texas, you can subsist on local talent. You can build a national champion out of that talent. That's something that like South Florida can't even say anymore. Like even Miami's always had to go out of their way to get offensive line recruits because they just don't have the same kind of offensive line recruits. Go look at their prime lines of like the 2000s. They're getting guys from like Canada. They're getting Martin Bibla to come down to Miami, which easy sell, by the way. Great sell. Texas has the same sell. Hey, are you tired of being cold? Do you never want to be cold again? Do you want to be rich and not cold? Come on down. Down. Can you imagine that's a good deal. If you've been cold that long and not had money and you're 18 years old and somebody's like, hey, would you like to be big and strong for money? Would you like to have, let's say, a relatively modest sum for a left tackle at this point? I'm going to pay you $500,000 to come play in Austin, right? You come on down from whatever farm you just walked off of, and we'll bring you in. And all of a sudden, you're in Austin, Texas, and you have money you don't understand, right? You're like, at the end of the month, I have that left.
That is actually an underrated part of the NIL thing, like what the first paycheck is like. Like I remember when I was 21, I worked an internship at a fairly large company. And I remember the internship paid $5,400 a month before tax. It was like they paid like you had an MBA or something like that. Okay. Ooh. And this is in the summer of 2002.
Good God.
Yes. And I'm staying at my parents' house. Okay. So the first check I got was a 1-week check because of my start date. And that 1-week check was for $1,000. And I looked at my father and I said to him, I understand a little better how it is that people sell out, and that was over $1,000. I know that for many of you, you've heard this story before, but I've been telling this story now for almost 25 years,
Mhm.
and it still shocks me to look back on how excited I was at $1,000. These motherfuckers are getting checks after taxes with like 5 figures before the dot.
Mhm. I thought you were going to tell your dad, be like, listen, you don't have to worry about that mortgage anymore. I have $1,000.
I got $1,000 now.
Gonna make it happen.
Drake's on me.
Yeah. I love that for them. I despise any effort to curb that. I think that is the best part of the current game, is that we're actually paying these players now. I also worry about whether somebody's trying to sell them PS6s, right?
Yes.
I don't even think that's out yet. No, that's what this is. It's only 10 grand. You can have one before anyone else. And I've just written in Sharpie on the side of a PS5, right? PS6.
Yeah, finally guys can get money and show it, right? Like I was watching Goodfellas the other day, and like a college football player showing up with some jewelry on, is like old buddy pulling up with his wife in the mink.
Yeah, take that back. Take it back.
Buddy with the pink Cadillac on the curb.
Yeah.
Like,
it's in my mother's name. It's in my mother's name.
Like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Before we get into break, I want to ask this question right fast, and we'll talk a little more about it after also, but we'll start now. Is it possible to win a national championship and be on a hot seat? Because Ryan Day is testing that. It's not a hot seat, right? But it's definitely, there's still warmth.
Lukewarm. Just a little hint of warmth. Like,
toasty.
If you got those heated seats in your car, 1 light, not 3 lights. You're on the 1 light setting.
I don't know. How many times? Is it 5 years in a row now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They lost to Michigan 5 years in a row.
Well, let's see.
Including to the black guy.
Yeah, they lost last year, which is the worst loss of them all. That is the worst one. 13-10 to a team that had no hope of moving the ball or scoring. None.
Yes.
So are you on the hot seat? No, you just won a national title. Do we still have the same questions about how essential you are to the enterprise? Yeah.
So the point I try to make to people is there is only one Alabama. Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
We'll come back. John Cooper had that job for 13 years and beat Michigan twice. You could say that things are different now, but they're not, right? Like if this is a one-win job, which is how we frequently think of it being, is a one-win job. No, they're actually a little more patient with that job than people realize. Another job that's more patient than people realize is LSU, which we think of in our heads as a 12-win program, but it's really an over-under 9.5. Right? Like they're even the Saban era, that's a over-under 9.5 win program, right? Ohio State's not going to fire a coach after going 11-2.
No.
But he might want to quit. Not that he will actually quit. He just may have days where he desires to quit if he loses that job again. By the way, they're favored to beat Texas. It's going to be number 1 versus number 2 to open the season, and they are favored because they have the game at home.
Yeah, and should be. Like they are. I mean, defending champion doesn't mean anything when it comes of this year, but like that place at home, rosters that are comparable in terms of overall talent, that to me is fair. I think the thing that when we talk about Ryan Day is we wonder exactly what do you do here, because the apparatus that recruits at Ohio State and brings all of that talent in, the pipeline, everyone who is greasing the wheels. If you fire the head coach, they're not going anywhere. I'm here to tell you, they're on board. They're fine. Okay, that's a machine. It is a football factory, and the floor managers and foremen are on duty and will stay on duty. Okay, the checks will continue to come. The bank is still open. So what is the difference that Ryan Day provides? Well, Ryan Day did win a national title and did a pretty nice job of managing that roster. Apparently in this era, he's pretty good at managing egos and being a pro-style kind of like coach, which is interesting because He appears to be having no fun doing it. So maybe he is a pro style coach. NFL coaches just all look like they're like seconds from death. That's Ryan Day. If you want any argument for Ohio State being a pro team, it's that I think their coach would probably walk away for like $1 more than what he's doing now. Just leave, which may be what happens. He may just end up like resigning out of concern for his well-being because it is that stressful a job. I think there are some things that you can look at this season and go, they have downgraded, and that's in management. That's it. Like there's no way of getting around the fact
Chip Kelly.
Yes, they lost Chip Kelly and they lost Jim Knowles. That is their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. The pieces are still incredible. You do not have to worry about that. But last year they managed an offensive line where they had to shuffle a couple of things around. They had to figure some things out. All right. They had to manage all of that talent and getting everyone the ball, which, that is a Phil Jackson tier skill in terms of balancing everyone's feelings and making sure that everyone gets, enough carries and feels like that they're, validated and happy. The guy who's doing that this year is their wide receivers coach, their former wide receivers coach, Brian Hartline. But Brian Hartline hasn't really done this job like this before, right? He hasn't done it the whole way. It's his shop now. That's going to look different. All right. They'll be like, oh, the playbook's the same. It's never exactly the same because the person handling it and the person running it will put a slightly different stamp on things. He's been there, obviously, but it's going to look a little different.
He also seems, by the way, to very clearly be the best wide receivers coach on earth.
And a great recruiter.
Has to be. All those guys, for those people listening, those are all him.
Which, like, if you had any incentive to keep someone, I know ambition's a thing, but if you had any incentive to keep somebody just doing one thing, he would be that guy. Right? You're like, oh, you're overpaying your wide receivers coach. Am I? Have you seen what we've done? Have you seen the talent we found? Have you seen what we just got in the last year and a half? Jeremiah Smith, we have a disgusting run of talent at wide receiver, and the guy who we're going to talk about this year may be the best one of all. That's nuts.
Well, that's what I was going to say. And I'll say this right before we go into this break, where you're talking about we got to figure out how to get everybody else the ball. Okay, so when you had Henderson and you had Junkins last year, and you got to figure out running backs and all of that, yeah, I get you. Let me tell you something. This year, we out here running that Bel Air. You know what I'm saying? We're running this like Amari Cooper when he was at Alabama.
Got a Randy ratio,
Yeah, we're just going to pass the ball to that dude as many times as we possibly can because I promise you he's open.
It's never a bad idea. On the defensive side of the ball, too, I don't know if you all know this, Matt Patricia is their defensive coordinator.
Okay, that's a problem.
Might be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause for concern. It's all here. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the biggest mystery that college football has to offer us that we probably will not take our eyes off of. NFL fans, week 1 is your shot to play free and stack $1 million cash bag with DraftKings Pick 6, an official partner of the NFL. Here's how. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, DraftKings' easiest way to play fantasy. Enter for free and pick more or less on 6-player stats for week 1. Share your link with friends to add more cash to the bag and get bonus shots to win. Hit all 6 picks and you'll be splitting a bag that's already at $1 million or more. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, use code BOMANI and opt in free and start stacking entries for week 1 in the NFL. Zero cost, huge upside in partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. Must claim token for free entry in bag builder contest. Only perfect entries earn share of cash prize. Tokens are single-use and expire September 8th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, we are back all with Spencer Hall, getting ready for college football season. Does anybody have any idea what there is to expect from North Carolina this year?
No, I really don't. And I say that college football is a sport of systems. And even more so than like pro football because you have so much talent prospecting to do. You have so much management and you have so much to organize in terms of how things work day to day. And what happens in the field isn't as complex as what happens in the NFL. It's not. Like, plays are simpler, schemes are simpler, but I think there's an added level of complexity in terms of your roster management, in terms of now we actually have payroll management and you can call it that because that's what it is. And then the fact that you have to coexist with this university and all the weird demands, like everyone kind of has to cosplay as a student, right? Like, hey, I'm going to go do school stuff now. I've got a backpack. Okay. Cool. That's all part of the deal there. And I don't know what Bill Belichick has in the bag for that element of it. Sometimes teams just forget how to do everything all at once. I've seen it. Like, I have seen it. Like, I've seen it with my own team. Like, I'm a Florida fan. And in 2010, when Urban Meyer came back from his breakdown, that team all of a sudden didn't know how to do anything. Lost all the coaches, lost everyone who sort of remembered how to do things. And they came out game one and you went, oh no, they forgot how to play football. Like, that might happen. Like, UNC might roll out against Charlotte and we have no idea what they're doing. Like, that might happen. I don't think that will happen. I think they'll be competent. But, the idea that they're going to be great is absurd. Like, look at the roster. Look at what they've got. Look how bad they were on defense at times last year. Look how ineffective or inconsistent they were on offense at times last year. I don't think it's reasonable to expect them to be good. I think they might be average. And that's probably what you should expect in year one from most coaching staffs. And I think that's what you can expect out of this one. The idea that he'll be different than any coach at this level is absurd to me, especially when you've seen pro coaches come back to college and be perfectly average, if not bad.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because they've spent a lot of money. At least North Carolina's idea of a lot of money between Belichick and various things that he has wanted to get that program off the ground. I have said many times, what did him in with the Patriots was poor talent evaluation. Mm-hmm. And he is now in a sport that is about talent evaluation in a much different way because it is much more based on present value and forecasting future value. Yeah. It's a different. It also would then require Belichick to do a lot more leaning on other people because you just can't keep up with everything that you need to keep up with. I remember one of the first big transfers he came in from Holy Cross, which made me very nervous, right? I was like, here we go, big brain Bill. He's out here trying to overthink what this situation is. He is also Bill Belichick. And my concern with him is asking a college professor to teach pre-algebra does not always work out so well, right? Can he come down to the level and the capacity that the teenager has and recognize the actual discipline that the teenagers are going to produce? I think that's number one there. Number two, you can't scheme up defense in college. Not really, right? You, like, every now and then, like, whoever the first people were that came up with like those 3-3-5s or like Charlie Strong with the 4-2, like, you could come up with a paradigm change maybe that gets you ahead of things and works with what your shortcomings are in talent. But overall, if you don't have the boys, you can't play defense, especially not in college.
Well, I'm going to speak out of turn here for any coach, but here's what I have observed. And it is this, that at times, and by the way, I'm roundabout quoting Bill Belichick here, that when you get to the third and the fourth quarter, you have gone from 80 plays on your sheet on both sides of the ball to 2. Like, there's probably 3 or 4 plays that are going to work. And in college, if you got those guys, and in the NFL, if you have those guys, but in college, if you've got those guys, you'd be stupid not to run them. I want you to go watch Georgia. Go watch Georgia. Okay. The best managed program of the last 5 or 6 years of college football. And what you need to watch is what they do when they're in trouble. And they really need to, like, bear down and fix things. They go play like cover 1. They play like basic stuff, pretty basic, and then they just kick your ass. So when in doubt, be big. When in doubt, be strong. And when in doubt, be mean. And I think that's something that Belichick's probably going to hone in on, but he doesn't have those guys. Yeah. So if it goes to a matter of scheme, It won't matter because one, his team probably won't be able to pull it off. You talk to trainers, and my favorite things, he goes, yeah, if you go to like one of those small smart schools, they understand the concept immediately and they can't do it. If you go to like a big FBS program, like a top 10 program, they can do whatever you ask them to do, whatever it is, instantly, but they might not understand it. Right. That's the deal. And I think that's the gap that Belichick is going to have to bridge, because in the NFL, you can cherry pick big smart. You can cherry pick big smart fast every single time. In college, they might have one of the three. And if they got two, they're an All-American. And if they got big smart fast, they're an NFL guy, which is 1% of the population of FBS players. So it's interesting to me, the hiring of some of the guys that he's brought on board who just feel like boys, who just feel like his boys, that doesn't inspire confidence. It doesn't. And again, that's not against Bill. That's against anyone. If you just bring in a bunch of your dudes, right? Like if you have anything to worry about at Georgia, for instance, it's the fact that you go, hey, all these guys know Kirby and played with him in the 90s. Like that just never, organizationally, that doesn't feel great.
Right.
Even if the results are still pretty much on par. I don't like that. I like it when it feels a little more professional. Because that to me seems like a better environment for like ideas and managing your culture or whatever. That's really not what you've seen at UNC. Like at UNC, it feels chummy. It feels like they've hired a bunch of Belichick's old boys, including Mike Lombardi, to manage.
That's the one. That's the one that tells me, that makes me feel like this is an unserious operation.
Buddy, pal. I'm gonna bust out. Hold on, let me reach deep into the Caucasian back here, buddy. Do you think that's gonna work out? Because I'm gonna tell you, as a neutral observer, that doesn't seem like a great move.
I just don't know where it's worked, and that includes the NFL Network.
Yeah, I've seen the previous work, and counting on this to be some kind of like revolutionary organization that's going to redefine how we do things at the college level. I heard that at Arizona State when you brought in Herm Edwards.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we're going to end up with. This feels like the over-under on wins is 7.5, and Vegas feels a lot smarter than I do at this point.
Well, hold on. It would be so great if Bill Belichick had his Antonio Pierce. A great all-time, like the last great college football renegade, because the rules are, and Antonio was not down there doing renegade stuff with money. He just had a complete and total absence of respect for these silly NCAA rules. And that's how you get Jayden Daniels to come to Arizona State, by the way.
Yeah. What was that man doing there? Like they had him. If you watch with Jayden Daniels at Arizona State and the things that they were asking him to do, he gets to LSU, a place, by the way, not known for being like revolutionary, not known for being super innovative, just doing what everyone else does for the most part. They got him there and they're like, oh, we should just let you ball. That is not what he was doing at Arizona State. Yeah, he could end up with that guy. He could end up with an Antonio Pierce. He could end up, the idea of Bill Belichick having the kind of conversations that Nick Saban had, like where he's making these nuts jokes, right? Because remember, Nick Saban, terrifying reputation, but would also make a lot of jokes about his nuts with players.
Yes.
Like that's, if you want to know where water met its level eventually, right? It would be that. And I don't necessarily see Bill Belichick being the same. Do you think they're going to pick up on that dry New England wit? Right? Do you think they're gonna find that parsimony of words charming? I don't think that do your job is gonna sell quite as well at the college level, particularly when their brains haven't even really fully formed.
Right. Even if they're getting paid. Like that's the thing that I think a lot of these coaches are gonna have to divorce themselves from. Though we're paying you to do this, it's not gonna work like you think. It's just not, because they're kids. It doesn't go this way.
Like it's a lot like, I think at that point, you think of a salary more as a bunch of candy in a stocking than you do as reward for your work. You go, oh, I found this. Neat.
Yes.
And I think that is probably how the majority of football players think of it, because it's certainly how I thought about it when I was like 18 to 22. You get a paycheck and go, I don't know what that's for, but we're going to see.
So I'm going to say this right fast before we get to our last topic. And it's only because you mentioned the Urban Meyer 2010 season. And Ryan, LSU grad, and I were talking about this. The day that Urban Meyer's tenure at Florida officially ended was not that first game. I can pinpoint it to a specific moment. It is when LSU played this game at the Swamp and called a fake field goal that involved the holder throwing the ball over his shoulder to the kicker, who I believe walked in for a touchdown.
He did. It was a great call.
And in the post game, when they asked Urban Meyer a question about Les Miles, and all he could do was wave his hand to shush the question away because Les Miles broke that man's spirit that day. That was the day it ended.
Cooked, fried, done. I thought the same thing when I saw Matt Stafford heading into like some sort of quackery Airstream trailer. And they're like, yeah, his back hurts. So he's going to get infrared treatment on it. You're like, done. Yes. That man's no, don't you, buddy. No, as Charles McDonald would say, nobody used to have a bad back.
That's a great Charles McDonald who has a bad back.
Who has a bad back. Younger than me. Oh, yeah. Like I should call, like borrowing some lingo here, I should call Charles McDonald Unc. That is how old man style Charles McDonald lives. And he talks about having a bad back more than I do. And I'm much older than Charles.
No, that is a great line. Some have had back injuries, but you are correct. If you say you have a bad back, nobody has a bad back. J.A. Adade always tells this story about this quote from Kobe about taking charges that J.A. refers to as charges are for suckers. And they asked Kobe about taking charges. He was like, I saw Bird take a lot of charges. He got a fucked up back. And that's Kobe talking, not me. He's like, I saw Scottie Pippen take a lot of charges. He's got a fucked up back. Saw Dennis Rodman take a lot of charges. He's got a fucked up back. I never saw Magic take any charges. His back is just fine. I never saw Mike take any charges. His back is just fine. Hey, I'm not about to be on team bad back.
Coach K is like the king of take the charge, right? You seen Coach K laying on the court in the middle of a game? Not taking a charge.
I would now love to see a Duke Old Timers game with just a bunch of people walking around with bad backs. Let's go find out Shane Battier. How's that working?
I need to listen. Any running back who runs out of bounds, kudos to you. Okay,
yes.
Because you know what they are at yoga class, playing a little pickleball,
Eric
getting a quick 18 in. Yeah, Eric Dickerson. Have you seen Eric Dickerson? Looks awesome.
Franco Harris, rest in peace. But Franco Harris, considering the era of football that he played in, Franco Harris made it a long way walking upright.
Franco Harris was an innovator, though. Innovator, because no one at the time was doing that. And Franco was like, yeah, this is stupid. I'm going to be over here. And they're like, you're not a real man. He's somebody, I'll be a real man when I'm 50.
As a fullback.
As a fullback.
Even a halfback. It was a fullback. How is this even an option? How does the fullback have the option to consistently run out of bounds?
The fullback, by the way, checking his spending on his app, right? That's what he was doing. He was like, I've spent $50 worth of contact today. Boys, I'm overdrawn. Stepping out of bounds.
I bet Ted Ginn feel excellent every day he wake up.
Oh, hey, Jerry Rice? Like Jerry Rice. You know, go look up Jerry Rice big hits. It's a very short YouTube video.
It is. It's like looking up people who dunked on Tim Duncan. Not a lot of those. And he did it the opposite way of Shaq, where Shaq was just going to take you to the ground.
Yeah. Tim Duncan was Captain Technique. By the way, Tim Duncan, side note, cut this if you want. I hadn't seen the Bill Russell video with him. I pray in life to get a compliment as half as good as that. Where Bill Russell says, yeah, Jackie Robinson asked me to be a pallbearer at his funeral because he said I was his favorite athlete. And that's what you are to me. Oh, that's what he said to Tim Duncan. I would have cried.
And I would have cried. I now hear that, and I want to say to Tim Duncan, so what'd you go do for the people after that, brother? Like, you got to step this shit up now, homeboy.
It's not a very Tim Duncan thing to hear that, though, and go, wow. And then, like, next day be like, oh, I don't know. I'm just gonna hang out.
Pretty cool. Yeah. It was all right. So you and I have talked about this for a while, and it still worked out. We have a whole generation of people who really still don't know what this Alabama thing truly about, right? Because Nick Saban kept the Wolves at bay. He was so good, so consistently for so long that we never saw Alabama get there. Keep in mind, the one time Bear Bryant had a bad season after their little segregation has gone too far period, and they got the wishbone in and then took everything back. Bear Bryant had one bad season, and a month later, he died.
Yep.
Not exaggerating.
Get
Yeah,
him.
and he said that Alabama deserved a better coach. And I know he meant that somewhat metaphorically, but I also know he understood. Like, even that monster would eat even him up. Last year, Alabama lost 4 games. If
Mhm.
somehow they lost 4 games this year, what does that look like?
Bad. It's bad. It's already bad. It's not a riot type situation, but it's definitely disgruntled, unhappy, and probably already thinking about the next thing if they lose 4 games. It also depends on what 4 games they are. Losing to Auburn's inexcusable. Losing to a team that they think is a tier below them is inexcusable. Losing to Tennessee. Let's put that watermark right there. If they lose to Tennessee, who is formally a rival, but not functionally a rival in the minds of most Alabama fans. If they lose to Tennessee again, and if they lose particularly in sort of a hard-nosed manner, last year's Alabama team, very weird because they are a transitional team. They were kind of a platypus team. There's a lot of different parts that didn't necessarily fit. Jalen Milroe was the quarterback, and I think having a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, when he is obviously too talented not to play and too athletic not to play, but has limitations on his game, you're going to be kind of a boom bust team. You're going to be the kind of team that sometimes scores 35 and sometimes you score 13 because he was that inconsistent, but that gifted at the same time. So I think that they had the golden handcuffs of a very gifted quarterback who couldn't exactly play the position the way they wanted to. Now they're going to have a less talented quarterback potentially, at least in terms of raw athletic talent and potential. Jalen Milroe.
But he's a ghost of 5-star pass, worth noting.
Right. Like Jalen Milroe, 80-yard arm, capable of busting a 70-yarder, and then also capable of just mismanaging the offense because, he couldn't operate it, at the level that the coaches wanted him to in terms of efficiency, right? And that's all it is efficiency. When we talk about efficiency, it's take your check down, hit your check down accurately, right? Recognize this, get out of a bad play, get into a better play. Don't turn the ball over. He was the kind of guy who they lived with the busts so that they could enjoy the booms. But that combined with, some like a new regime on defense, that'll get you 4 losses. That'll get you some inconsistent play. They don't necessarily, this is still, by the way, I don't want anybody to lose sight of this. This is still a top 5 roster in college football in terms of sheer raw talent. This is still nothing but 4 and 5 stars, right? This is nothing but, if we're doing movies, this is nothing but a bunch of Lawrence Arabias. This is nothing but a bunch of Casablancas, right? Like, this is classics across the shelf. So on that alone, you can't rule them out in terms of national title contention. You can't rule them out in terms of SEC championship contention. But what they look like this year, it's going to look a lot like that Washington team offensively, right? Because, they've got the band back together on the coaching staff. They have Ty Simpson at quarterback, who I think is going to be a less spectacular option than Milroe, but probably more efficient in terms of what they want down to down. They also have Caden Proctor at left tackle. I need you to go look up Caden Proctor.
Yes.
You might be able to find him on Google Maps. Like, he might be listed as a building. He is, and I'm not like, they've had specimens at Alabama before. They've had guys who defy what you believe a human being is capable of in terms of size and power. Caden Proctor squatted 800 pounds.
Check your phone for what I just texted you about Caden Proctor. You're not going to want to say it out loud.
Can I say it out loud?
I'll let you look at it and make that decision.
I'm not going to.
I think you're going to vote against it, but just look at what he says.
Yeah. I'm going to let the listener or viewer in on this. I have a piece of information about Caden Proctor and his family that would indicate to me that 6'7", 369 with an 800-pound squat is standard. If you go to the Proctor family reunion, there's a semi truck.
Not alone.
There's a semi truck of food, okay? Like the Cisco truck. They back the whole thing up.
He's not alone. But I tell you this, you better win every game you're supposed to, because here's where I'm counting those losses that are going to make Kalen DeBoer regret his choices.
Yeah.
They got to at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They got to at South Carolina. And that's still a we gonna see situation, right? It's still, I don't
Yeah.
care what the top, whatever they're in, it's still South Carolina. They have Oklahoma. LSU at home, where LSU, we're gonna learn a lot about how they feel about Brian Kelly based on what he does with this roster. That's three in Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, all in a row with Alabama, with Oklahoma right after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
This, I don't know what exactly the expectations are. I just know losing 4 games 2 years in a row is, your seat will be ablaze for year 3. You'll get year 3 and you'll get a brick thrown through your window.
It could be bad. I will say this, I want 2 things to stand here. One, this could go bad in a hurry. It could go bad real fast. And if it's not a fit and they don't play like great football, not good, they have to be great. That is the standard there. It could go sideways super fast. They will get you out of there because, again, like Ryan Day, the factory's fine. We can put a new name on the nameplate, but everybody on the floor and the systems and how we make things, the football factory's gonna be there.
Yes.
You're not that important as a head coach. You're not. You might be once a generation, but ultimately, even Nick Saban over a long enough span of time would have been replaced, because that's what happened to Bear Bryant. So it would have, if Nick Saban started to fall off hard, okay, not these sort of little indications that he was falling off that over the last 2 to 3 years in terms of replacing coaching talent or recruiting. And it was never really recruiting, it was talent development. No, we're talking about a big fall off. They would have replaced him. I'm interested to see how they play. Yeah.
The difference between Ohio State and Alabama is the floor. The floor at Ohio State is much higher. Much, much higher. You don't have a whole lot of those disaster piece theater seasons. There is no 2000. That's the year I'm looking for. The 3-8 year, the Mike DeBose.
Yeah,
you don't have those in the Ohio State ledger.
I think they lose to UCF at home.
Yeah, it doesn't go down.
Yeah.
Louisiana Monroe, remember that one?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that is the bottom, right? That is the bottom. The bottom could be 5 wins. When things fall apart at Alabama, you could have a 4-win season if everything goes wrong. I don't understand how you could do that with this current roster, but if DeBoer's recruiting were to fall off at any point, that's where you go, okay, you can't fall off recruiting-wise at Alabama, because look at everyone around you. They will eat straight off your plate with no apologies, and on either side, on every side, you'll have guys who do that. But I like what they I will say this. That's all very negative. I like this staff. I like the roster. I like their approach. I think everything could work there and work right now. They're not chasing a ghost of a former glory by hiring someone who did something a long time ago, which is what Auburn did. Auburn essentially hired a guy because of what he did a decade ago.
Which was win 2 games against Alabama.
14-50. That's it. You want to know why Hugh Freeze is cashing checks? All right, he's cashing checks in the larger sense because in 2014 and 2015, Ole Miss beat Alabama back-to-back, including once in Tuscaloosa off of one of the wildest quarterback games ever played by Chad Kelly. The other reason that he's currently employed is because last year when they were down, they beat A&M. That was it. Otherwise, that was their only win over a team with a winning record last year. And they might have gotten him out had he not won that game in particular.
I will say one last thing before we go, because you mentioned earlier them games where the grease is hot, the grease is popping. There is nothing quite like that young quarterback out there in a grease popping game. And if you've ever been to one in person, you never forget it. So one I did not go to in person, but will remember that year that Ohio State won the national championship, the Cardale Jones season. They had JT Barrett, underrated kind of all-time. He's like the original Jalen Hurts. Right. All-time great college football player who was often a limiting factor on the team that he quarterbacked. But his first start was a game against Navy. His second start, he got introduced to a man named Bud Foster. Bud Foster wore his ass out. And I knew that was going to happen because I had gone to a game in 2008. It was Carolina and Virginia Tech. And Carolina had a really talented team that year. And they had an NFL quarterback. They had 3 drafted receivers. Butch Davis has started to get the thing up and humming, right?
Yeah.
TJ Yates gets hurt in the third quarter. They go to a kid named Mike Paulus. His brother Greg played point guard at Duke, but Mike Paulus was a high 4-star recruit. He was a quarterback of the future type. The first play after Yates got hurt, they ran an off-tackle play or something to Greg Little, scored a touchdown. Fourth quarter comes, and I had never done this covering the game before. I was on the sidelines for the last drive. And it was Mike Paulus on one side, and it was Bud Foster's Virginia Tech defense on the other side. And I watched a man's career end before it started. I ain't never seen nothing like that before in my life. I don't know how in the hell he was. I mean, it really crystallized for me what the job is that you're asking of a quarterback. Them boys was in there fast, and he had no idea what to do.
Yeah, one thing you could do to break up a spread offense that relies on, QB read, relies on, I'm going to look this way and see if your end's crashing and I'll come around. There's a great way to deal with that. Tackle everybody. That's it. So Bud Foster ran the 4.6. The 4.6 has not been a major force in football since the mid 80s. It was the Jurassic Park situation where they go, hey, you know what? I think a T-Rex would do really well in this environment. Let's just let it loose. Let's see. When the 4.6 comes out, I want you to know what this means. Your center, who hikes the ball, has a nose tackle, the biggest, fattest, meanest guy on the defense. And he's lined up head on. He's lined up head on to the center. No gap control to worry about for him. No, I got to go ahead and control. No, his annihilate. That's it. His whole job is to annihilate the guy who only has one hand to block with at the snap. That's it. It is a beautiful, sometimes suicidal approach to defense. Ohio State could not handle it. Or they could not. It was just like watching somebody get hit with a sledgehammer for 4 quarters.
Strategy of the 46 is very simple. We're going to make it impossible for you to run. Therefore, you're going to pass, except there'll be no time.
There will be no time because that 6 stands for 6 linebackers. 6 linebackers, okay? They're not there to do pass coverage. They're not there to do anything smart. They're there to play kill you. That's it. It's one of my favorite defensive wrinkles of all time. By the way, not a great Virginia Tech team. They just had the answer that day, which was awesome to watch.
For a team that won a national championship against a quarterback who I believe that year was a Heisman Trophy finalist.
Yeah. A great team that just got a quiz that it did not study for at all and failed it badly.
Team so great that it could win a national championship with his third string quarterback and its offensive coordinator being Tom Herman. Just throwing that out there.
You said it, not me.
Spencer Hall, check out the Shutdown Fullcast. Check out Channel 6. Check out the college football season and follow him because he's better at this than anybody. My brother, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. Ryan Brumley handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.